So for the potato, I'm using Japanese potato. It's a red skin potato. It's really sweet. It's one of my favorites. So I'm going to wash it off because I want to do it. I'm washing it. I want to do it with the skin on. I'm going to bake it with the skin on, and you'll see how I do it later. I have my little handy dandy brush. It's a cheap buy from IKEA. I love them. I buy them in packs. I get a good scrub so it's nice and clean. I'm going to pat it dry. Nice and dry. See, it's really red. My paper towel's red. I'm going to get some foil paper. I'm going to take our foil paper and I'm going to wrap it up real good. You want to make sure there's no opening. So when it's baked, it's fully baked and steamed on the inside. So fully wrapped and protected. Now I'm going to add it to a baking sheet. I'm going to place it on the baking sheet and I'm going to bake this at 375 for about an hour and a half. This is the part where I tend to prep a little earlier than when I actually get into the rest of prepping for the meal. Okay? Because it takes much longer. I'm going to clean up the pork chops. Start by taking it out the wrapper. Put it in the sink. And these are fairly thin because I'm going to be doing it in the air fryer. One of the main things I use to clean my meat, gets rid of everything, is white vinegar. So we're just gonna add that on. There we go. And when you add vinegar to meat, it takes off all the gunk. You're going to pat your pork chops dry. I like to dry them before I add seasoning, just so that it's dry and there's not a lot of water. All dry, they're ready to be seasoned. So I'm going to season the pork chops with a little adobo, garlic powder, ginger, and for a little kick, I'm going to add some chili powder. So this part is totally up to you. I'm just going to season both sides. I'm going to start with my adobo. I'm very generous with garlic. I love cooking with garlic, adding my garlic powder. Some ginger. There's something about ginger and pork chops. I don't know. I've been doing it since I was a teenager. It just works together. I'm going to give it a little kick with a little chili powder. I'm not going to add too much. I don't want it too spicy. The whole point of this is for it to be sweet. So I'm going to put that in. And I'm going to flip them over and do the exact same thing. Aside the meat in the stainless steel pan. I love using these pans for a couple of reasons. They don't retain any smell, and if you're using anything such as curry, it doesn't stain. You can easily wash them out. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to cover this with foil wrap and set it aside. Foil. I'm going to set this aside for about 30 minutes. So I'm going to use parchment paper to prep my air fryer rack. So that way the meat doesn't stick to the grate. And it's a simple process where you just fold it to the size of your rack. Any excess that's over here, you can bend it. To the shape. To place my pork chops on the air fryer rack. I'm going to see if I can fit all 4 on here. Maybe I could fit 5. I'll reposition this one. The other thing about meat, it shrinks when it's cooking, so it may look like it takes up the whole space now. By the time I'm done, it's going to be much smaller. Okay, there you have it. Okay, so I put the pork chops in the air fryer. I'm going to turn it on, and I'm actually going to choose pork chops as an option. And it's going to cook for 25 minutes once I hit start. And I want to turn the light on so I can take a look in there to see how they look. And I'll let it cook for 25 minutes, then I'll check on it. I may make it go another 25 minutes. All depends on how it looks. Because I like my meat in general, cooked thoroughly all the way through. Okay. So I pulled the pork chops out so I could check them. I'm just going to flip them over. So that we can get color on both sides. And I'm probably going to cook this for another 20 minutes. Prep my sweet and sour sauce. And I have a few little things that I use. So I don't just buy the sweet and sour sauce in the store. First, I want to start with a base with the sweet and sour sauce. Because I'm going to coat my pork chops with this. And then I add a little bit of duck sauce. One of my favorites to add is some apricot sauce. This is a nice little tart. A little lemon juice. You could do fresh squeezed lemon. You could do it from the bottle. Just a tip. Not a lot, because remember, you do have the sweet and sour sauce in there. A tip. All right. I do add a little soy sauce because I want the color to be a little bit darker. All right. I'll mix it all up together. And I have a secret ingredient that I haven't told you about yet. Ham glaze. There's something about this that just gives it a nice, it just makes it really nice. That's a little on the sweeter side, so I'm going to add some more lemon juice. A little more soy sauce. A little darker. And I'm going to generously add some more sweet and sour sauce. That should be enough. Mix it all together. Perfect. Now, I didn't measure, so it's really up to your discretion. How do you want to go about it? With the sweet and sour sauce. More like smother it. So it has that nice glaze on top of it. I'm going to do it on both sides, and I'm going to stick it back in the air fryer. About a 10-15 minute window so that, you know, the juices could soak in. And then we can plate up our meal. I like using the silicone brushes because the ones that are like paint brushes, I'm just always worried there's things left in it even when you wash it. So I like using the silicone brushes. I find it much better. Okay, so I'm gonna put these back in the air fryer for about 10 minutes or so. And I'm putting it back on parchment paper so that it doesn't drip. Keep all the juices in there. Remember in the beginning when I was doing this, I said, oh, these are going to shrink. They've shrunk. All right, I'm going to stick that back in the air fryer for about 5-10 minutes because they're fully cooked. That looks scrumptious. Yay. For our sauteed cabbage, I'm going to chop our cabbage. I don't want it to be very small, so I'm going to do big chunks. Get rid of the heart of the cabbage. Any extra, take that off. And I find it easier when I cut the cabbage in quarters. It just makes it easier to work with. Okay, so I heated my pan and now I'm going to add in the oil. Enough to saute my veggies. And I use olive oil, sunflower mix. You can season this with salt and pepper to taste. I love a colorful pot. And I usually do this at a high heat. Just keep it all. And then I add in my cabbage. And I just fold it all in. I like my cabbage crunchy, not soggy. It's going all over the place. I like this. And then I turn it down to a medium heat. And again, you season this to taste. I like lots of black pepper to taste. And add some more salt. And I constantly stir it. So for me, this is sauteed cabbage because I'm constantly sauteing, stirring it in the pot. It's at a medium heat. Clean off all the mess. Remember I had those carrots cut up? I want to add those in just to give it a little crunch. So our cabbage, nice and juicy and well sauteed, colorful. We have about 2 more minutes on our pork chops. I'm going to plate this all up. Remember we had the Japanese potato in the oven. I'm going to take that out and show you how I slice it up and plate everything up. I turn this down to a low because it's right at the point where it's just the crunch that I'm looking for. Cabbage is one of my favorite things to cook. It's quick, it's easy, it's a no fuss veggie, and it's tasty. Unlike broccoli, which is bland, so I get very creative with how I cook broccoli. Cabbage, once you add a little seasoning to it, salt and pepper, it's pretty basic requirements. Okay, I'm going to turn that off. Alright, I'm going to plate everything up. Our Japanese potato, fresh out the oven, fully baked. So I'm going to slice it up so that I can plate. This is very hot, so I'm going to use a piece of paper towel to rest on it. Very tender. See the skin sliding off? This is what I love about this potato. And when you bake your potato, it reduces the amount of water that gets into the potato, so you get all the sweetness versus if you were to boil it. I wanted the skin on the potato, but it doesn't look like it's quite working out for me, so I'm just going to remove it. cabbage. All done. So there you have it. Sweet and sour pork chops with Japanese sweet potatoes and sauteed cabbage.